Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, and welcome to the Steadfast and Loyal podcast.
You gotta light 'em up before they burn it down. Better dig deep and put 'em in the ground. Blood on their hands, they're hellbound. Save us all. Ooh, they're gonna burn it down. Save us all before they burn it down.
Hey, greetings, everyone. Welcome back to the Steadfast and Loyal podcast. One of the things that we have to start looking at now that many of our state legislative sessions are coming to an end, how do we evaluate them? How do we have some type of measure of effectiveness? That's what we had in the military. How do we sit back and have the evaluative criteria that says, well, not so fast, my friend, as Lee Corso would say on ESPN College Football. This is where you did not have success, and this is where you voted, and this is where you didn't vote right, based upon the people that elected you to go down to the respective state house, state senate, and whatever state that you're in. So we're joined here today with Gloria McDonald and Chris Corbett because they have come up with a tool that will help you to be able to evaluate your representative and your state senator, because I think it's so important that we can keep you better informed, better educated, and better activated. And they're right here locally in Denton County, which is one of those important suburban counties outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So Gloria, tell us a little bit about yourself and all of the incredible involvement you have here in the conservative grassroots movement in North Texas.
Well, I think my whole life I've been interested in politics, but I became a precinct chair in Denton County in 2014, and I've also been an area leader. And through that, I became involved in Denton County Conservative Coalition, which is, right now, I'm the current president of D3C, which is our little short version of Denton County Conservative Coalition. And we try to present not only current things that are going on, but we're trying to make a difference in a number of ways. One of them was to feature the first priority before the session started, which was to ban Democrat chairs from being made chairman, which failed, but we did raise knowledge about what was going on, and it really did get people's interest. So from there, we have created a website to show people truth about what their elected officials are doing down in Austin. Some of it's good, some of it isn't, but the general population really doesn't know what's going on down there.
Yeah.
So our creation of this, with lots of help from Chris and a group of us, is for people to be able to go look what their people are doing during the session, but also after. This is the beginning of what we're doing, and right now it's only in Denton County. Our hope is that it will spread within every county in Texas and beyond, because it's a tool that could be used for every single county.
Chris, what's your part in this and what's your background?
Well, my background is I've been a conservative Christian activist in policy and politics for, 3 decades. I'll just leave it at that. It makes me feel old to say that, but I don't feel old. And I've worked I've been on staff at First Liberty Institute, religious liberties defense firm.
Kelly Shackelford.
Kelly Shackelford have done a lot of writing for Alliance Defending Freedom, the Heritage Foundation, groups like that, and Texas groups also. But more pertinent to this, I'm a precinct chair just the last 2 years in Denton County. I looked at what was happening in the country, and I've been involved nationally, been involved in statewide policy and politics. But after 2020, I said I need to really be a sheepdog for what's going on in my area. So I became a precinct chair for the local Republican Party in Denton County, and was this past summer in 2022 on the state legislative priorities committee for the convention that's tasked with coming up with the 8 priorities that the party is going to push for each legislative session.
Yep.
So we came up with the 8 priorities. They were ratified by over 5,000 delegates at the Republican convention. And went back home, and Gloria said she asked me to chair the Denton County Conservative Coalition's Legislative Priorities Committee. And we did some good things during the election. We came up with push cards and some things to make people aware of these priorities. But I thought, what can we do? And my background is I'm a writer, I'm an idea marketer. What can we do to really make people aware? And what can we do as citizens in our county so that we are taking care of our home turf? And so we came up with this idea of a website that would be, and we call it staterepscorecard.com. So if you go to staterepscorecard.com, you're going to see how the 5 Denton County representatives in the Texas State House are doing on the legislative priorities that their party has tasked them with advancing. And like Gloria said, right now, as we come to the last week of the regular session, some of them are doing okay. Some of them are not. Some of them are kind of struggling in the middle ground. But the voters will be able to see when this session is done what their representatives did. And what they did with the things that the party, that 5,000 people of their party has said are the top priorities that they needed to focus on. Did they focus on them, or did they do something else?
Well, without a doubt, what you're talking about is an accountability tool, because too often when it comes to election season, people run the ads and people get out there in their rallies and events and they say, well, yeah, I stood up for this, I stood up for that. Well, you're empowering people to stand up and say, I don't think so, my friend. And, to once again challenge them on this. But to me, the big thing that you all have to be able to do is how do you get people engaged and involved? Because the local level of politics is so important, but yet that's the level of politics where you see people just not coming out and participating. Am I right?
Yes. In fact, I think one of the most difficult things, whether it's Denton County Conservative Coalition, whether it's precinct chairs, is to help people understand that those primaries are key to getting the state and local and really the country. If they don't care about the primaries and they pick someone who does do what they want, instead they pick somebody with a nice name or a good haircut or somebody that they know, then we get in the mess we're in now in politics. So part of our job is to help people understand the importance of knowing who they're voting for. And to do that, they need to be ready for the primaries and to vote for the person that they think is going to do what they are voting for them to do, as opposed to, yes, I'm a great conservative, but then when I get to Austin, I'm not such a great conservative. Yeah. And that's what our site is going to show, because we're not just scoring people on how they voted. We're scoring them also on, did they sponsor or introduce a bill? Did they maybe not introduce it, but are they co-sponsoring or co-authoring? And if so, what are they doing about it? Are they just putting their name on the line and then voting against it? Or lots of things happen, killing it in a committee or just slow walking it. We see all that happen. So we're hoping that this will give a push and an open recognition to every voter looking at it, that this is what my guy did or my woman did. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not.
Well, I think it's so important because a lot of people don't understand the process. A lot of people don't understand it. legislation is brought up in a respective committee, and it can be killed in the committee, and who are the people voting on it in committee that killed it? And then even if it gets out of committee, what are they doing? Or do you have people down there not, like you said, they have not generated any legislation, they're not co-sponsoring anything. They're basically what the drill sergeants used to say in the military, you're just an oxygen thief. So there is a bit of education here. And one of the things that I saw when I was running for governor here was that a lot of people don't understand the difference between a primary and a general election. I mean, we had people that were calling our office and saying, why are you, running? You're going to split the vote, and O'Rourke's going to win. And this is in a primary. So how are you going to, is the D3C, can you sit down and have seminars or things of this nature? How do you make sure that people understand this website and how to access it? Because, it's almost like we got to crawl, walk, and run with a lot of this stuff.
Right. And one answer to that is that when the session is over, that's when probably this website will become even more valuable than it has been during the session, because people are going to be primaried or not, quite frankly, based on their score.
And that'll happen real quick. I mean, it's next March for primary elections here in Texas.
It will. It'll be top of mind, and we intend to market this in a very nuanced and aggressive way. I mean, when we thought about putting this together, we said it's got to be credible, it's got to be nuanced, like Gloria was saying. It's not just what did they vote on bills on the priority at the very last day. Mm-hmm. It's how did they support it early? Did they really advance these priorities, or did they just not care? And our scoring system is basically, you can get a -1 if you're against the priorities. Your perfect score would be a +8 because there's 8 priorities. Mm-hmm. You get 1 point per priority if you have really shown that you supported that priority and wanted to advance it. So if you are against a priority, you get a -1. So Representative Timish and Representative Stuckey, for example, in our county, they start off with a -1 because they were against the priority of banning Democrat chairs in a GOP-controlled House. Mm-hmm. And if you do nothing, or if you just give nominal or lip service support to a priority, then you get a 0. If you really do advance it, if you show that you have been fighting for it, then you get a +1. And it's there's always some subjectivity in scores like this, mm-hmm. but we have veteran, very knowledgeable people that are analyzing analyzing it so that it is highly objective. We take the bills that the Republican Party themselves have said, these are the bills that are going to advance our priority. And then we say, were they supported by this representative? Were they co-authored? Were they co-sponsored? Were they early adopters of it? Did they advance this? Did they vote for them? So it's all of those things. And so it'll be a very nuanced, a very, I think, credible report card that voters can look at. So what we're going to do is take those scores, and then, like, my background is, a lot of it is fundraising for conservative groups, direct response fundraising. So direct mail, digital, you go out with emails, mm-hmm. you go on social media, and we have a team that knows how to do that. And so we're going to make sure that the voters know through DC3, Denton County Conservative Coalition, what their representatives did. And then the voters can make the judgment based on that.
The important thing, I think, is to reduce the amount of subjectivity and have a high level objectivity. Everything has to be defined, whatever criteria that you're using, because, the next thing you know is someone will come back and say, they just don't like me. That's why they're out against me. No, but you need to be able to show that you say that you're a Republican, and define what it means to be a Republican. And of course, you define, here are the 8 legislative priorities of the people that worked hard to get you elected, as opposed to the other side. And why did you not adhere to the priorities that we set forward? So if you don't adhere to these priorities. Now, the big question is, Gloria, you're well connected. How do we get this across 254 counties in the state of Texas? How can we get everyone on the same sheet of music with this type of tool?
That's the hard part right there.
Well, if it was easy,
we-
we'd give it to the Air Force. That's what
That's
we used
true.
to say in the Army.
Our program to push this out and introduce it is already, even before we have our paid ads and things coming out, we have pushed it out through other clubs, not just in this county. So we've already been contacted by a couple so far, other counties that want to do it too. It's more than likely going to be conservative clubs within those counties that'll do it. One of the things that I was concerned about is what you just said about what gives it credibility. And we have a link on or drop down menu of the process itself so that they can see this is how the score happened and these are the criteria that we're using. And we've already seen in our criteria, one of the things we said was within 6 weeks to the end of the session, it's too late for a representative to go sign on to something and then have it count. We've already had it happen.
Yeah.
Apparently they didn't read our process. So after our website came out, it was effective enough to...
They started running.
They started running and signing,
Yeah.
but it was too late, including signing on to bills that were already dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the places that we want to make sure this gets out is actually down in Austin through that newspaper down there that, what is that? The Tribune?
Oh, yeah.
Texas Tribune.
Texas
Yeah.
Tribune. This all is going to obviously
They're kind of left leaning.
they are, but if they're left leaning, I don't think they're going to turn on our ad anyway, which is to direct people to look at this. And we're going to be using Facebook. We have someone who does lots of social media to try to get it out that way. And then I think we're going to have to sit down and start contacting, and we have plenty of people who know that, contacts in other counties. And we're going to, I think, really phone calls and talking directly with people, you know, that are movers in other counties that can also help us.
Yeah. Have you considered that also maybe you take it to the next level and there's an overall grade for the Republican-controlled state House and state Senate? Because I think that that's another important thing to get out there is that, you know, we gave you these majorities. What did you do with it?
I think so. I think it's going to speak for itself. We haven't really thought about an overall grade, but that is something that we could do. What we've found to be kind of the magic in this, and when I say magic, when we came out with this and started posting it, we immediately started getting contacted by people saying just what you said. You don't like me. You're just against me.
Yeah.
And these
Well,
are
that's
people
the nature of a politician.
Yeah, it was. And
Yeah.
you know, some of them were people that are my friends, but they are like, hey, you know, what is this? And I would just say, go to the website, staterepscorecard.com, look at the process tab, and see how we have graded you. You can even go to each priority, click on that tab, and you can see how many bills the Republican Party considered to be key, how many you have been a co-author or co-sponsor of, and how many you haven't. And you can see what we've done. Now, if you don't like it, of course, give us constructive criticism. You know, you can appeal, but this is an objective measure. And so that has told us that they're very sensitive to this hyperlocal approach.
Of course they are.
So in my mind, our first priority was to just be good sheepdogs for our area. We thought if we can't do anything else, one day we'll stand before God and say, you put us in Denton County, you had these reps in Denton County, and we did what we could to hold them accountable and to really let the voters be held accountable for holding their reps accountable. So we did that. But going beyond that, every county should do this in my estimation. And I see us as really kind of a beta site, a beta test for every one of those counties. The committee that I was on in Houston, I know all of the people that were on that committee. I mean, it was a great committee. It was phenomenal. Nathan Macias was our chairman. It was great. So I'm making sure all of them know what's going on in Denton County so that they can, in our like senatorial district, so that then they will be able to replicate it for theirs. And we're going to show people it's not, I mean, we're not funded by some sugar daddy doing this. I mean, that would be great, but we're really not. It was just people who were knowledgeable. And now that we've done it, we're very open to sharing it with other counties, so that if you had all 254 counties doing this, holding the reps accountable locally, those reps, if they get dinged by a statewide or even national organization, it stings them. But they feel like, okay,
Well, they can give them the Heisman.
people,
Yeah.
people in my district aren't going to really know this. But when it's someone local, when it's Denton County Conservative Coalition, then they say, in my backyard, there are people who know each other, who rub shoulders with each other, looking at what I do.
And they talk.
Yes.
That's the key.
So we'd like to see this be replicated, just, kind of like little cells in every county. And it would be a way that I think hasn't been done before to keep our representatives accountable and to change their behavior.
Well, I think a great thing that you should have, if someone calls up and says, I don't like what you wrote, or I don't like my rating, create an appeals process. They say, okay, that's fine. You can come before us. We'll schedule a date and you can stand before this august body and you can appeal your case. And we will present our case and then you can, say, I disagree and show us your objective criteria that says that this was a wrong assessment of my performance in this legislative session. I don't think they'll show up.
I suspect you're right. One thing that Chris referred to this being a beta in a way, which it is. Yeah. And we started, it's a huge undertaking. You wouldn't think 8 priorities would.
It's a lot of bills.
Huge. There were 7,000 bills. Yeah. And to isolate the ones that have to do with the priorities and then make sure that we are looking for the good ones, which helped us through the RPT because they went through and had specific ones that met the same criteria that was that came from the votes in the state convention. So everything's tied together, but the long-term plan for this is not just to focus on the 8 priorities. We need to also look at bills that meet the standards of the actual platform of the Texas Republican Party. And in some cases, that would also be the national platform. But if we are Republicans and we're expecting our elected Republican officials to stand with the platform, which is written by we the people, not somebody sitting.
Not the lobbyists in a smoky room.
That's right. These are we the people from the very beginning, from our precincts on. So there were some excellent things that were being voted on that we couldn't address with the 8 priorities because they weren't on those. The grid was one of them. The ad valorem tax issue, those weren't part of the 8, so we will be including those. We have now until the primary, we have all the information now anyway. So we're going to you're going to see this expand, which I think will help people more because they're going to have more information.
Well, this is a great tool. And, when I was told about this, I said, let's get them all. Let's talk about it, because I think that this is something, again, you can export it all across the state. You can export it all across the nation. And there has to be a tool that keeps politicians, elected officials accountable to the people who cast the vote for them. So where can people, once again, follow this and check it out and maybe adopt it for their respective counties or another state across this great nation?
They can go to staterepscorecard.com.
Okay.
That's the direct, that's the site we created for this. If they want to know about Denton County Conservative Coalition and what we do believe in and stand behind, which will hopefully give that some more credibility. Also is to go to Denton County Conservative Coalition.com.
Okay.
And so they're tied together, obviously.
Well, good stuff. Gloria McDonald, Chris Corbett, thank you so much for taking time to be with us on the Steadfast and Loyal podcast.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
You got it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for joining us on the Steadfast and Loyal podcast. Thank you to Chris Corbett and Gloria McDonald for coming in and sharing some time with us and talking about this checklist where we can kind of scorecard our legislators because we've got to get more engaged and more involved, got to be more informed about these legislators and what they're doing so we don't fall prey to their typical normal commercial advertisements and rhetoric. If you like this podcast, please click the like button. And until next time, steadfast and loyal.
Before they burn it down.